All right, we're just letting our Facebook audience know that we'll be holding a press conference here in the criminal Tabor. He will be coming up to the podium first, and this involves a very horrific. When we come up with the full press conference, but you may once again a horrific incident that involves Terrebonne Parish in another jurisdiction that will involve Texas also. But most of this press conference will deal with Terrebonne. Joining this press conference shortly. So once again, it's time to share and get it out right now. It's a full members of the investigative team and others on a very horrific crime right here.
We all ready? All right, first of all, welcome to Terrebonne Parish here. Certainly under some pretty disturbing circumstances brings us here today. We are here to discuss a case that sort of culminated with work from the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office and also the Baytown Police Department investigation that sort of came to light on April 20th of this year. Since that time, our detectives have been working very closely with the Baytown Police Department to come to a resolution, and we're proud to say that we have two people in custody. The first you'll see is a LaTanya Harris. She is a 40-year-old female from Thibodaux, and also a Terrence Washington, who is a 41-year-old male from Thibodaux as well. So just for the sake of being clear, Ms. Harris is currently incarcerated here in Terrebonne Parish on a multitude of charges, and we will discuss those as we go on. Terrence Washington is still in custody at the Harris County Correctional Facility in Texas, and he is awaiting extradition to our area. Okay? We will have 3 speakers today, and then I'm going to take an opportunity to introduce each and every person that's here on our panel. So the first speaker will be Sheriff Tim Saunier, who is the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff. We will have Detective Haley Hammis, who is an investigator with the Baytown Police Department, and also Joe Waits Jr., who is the Terrebonne Parish District Attorney. We ask that all of your questions are held until each person has an opportunity to speak. And as we explained earlier, Detective Hammis will not be available for any type of questionings related to anything that occurred in Baytown. She will be reading an impact statement from Chief John Stringer, who regrettably could not be here today. So I'll take this opportunity to introduce our panel. First, we have Lieutenant Colonel Terry Daig, who is the Criminal Commander for the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. We have Major Cody Wazan, who is the Chief of Detectives for the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. Captain Mitch Lejean, who is the Assistant Chief of Detectives for the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. Captain Cher Petrie, who is the Supervisor of our Special Victims Unit here at the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. We have Lieutenant Jason Pellegrin, who is the Assistant Supervisor for the Special Victims Unit here at the Sheriff's Office. We have Mark Petrie, who is the Chief Investigator for the Terrebonne Parish District Attorney's Office. And we also have Dennis Elfert, who is the Chief of Staff for the Terrebonne Parish District Attorney's Office. Okay? At this time, I'm going to turn this over to Sheriff Tim Saunier.
All right, thank y'all for being here. First of all, I got 3 words to say. My prayers go out to the victim. And there's 3 words. I'm going to talk about resilience, because that victim showed resilience to be a survivor. And bottom line, from a Marine's perspective, she was a true warrior in the survival of that. So I'll continue to pray for that young lady and her recovery. So I'll kind of go over the facts. It's a 15-year-old female victim, and we're obviously not going to release her name. The 2 suspects were LaTanya Ann Harris, 40 years old of Thibodaux, and Terrence Washington, 41 years of Thibodaux. This one's a tough one. It's a real tough one. But we have Baytown, we have a representative for Baytown Police Department. We thank you from the bottom of our heart. It's a tough one. And my detectives, thank you. Thank you. Because we're gonna make sure justice is served for that victim. To give you some more facts, on April 21st, 2024, at approximately 8:30, Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office was notified by DCFS of an abuse case that is being investigated by Baytown Police Department. The abuse was discovered as a result of a traffic crash investigated which occurred on I-10 East in Baytown, Texas. When Baytown officers arrived on the scene, they located a driver armed with a handgun who was taken into custody by Baytown Police Department. Baytown PD located 2 adults and 2 juveniles in a vehicle. The adult driver was identified as Terrence Washington. Adult from the front passenger was identified as LaTanya Harris, along with a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old female passengers. The 15-year-old female was found to be suffering from large-scale burns to the majority of her upper body and multiple gunshot wounds. She was transported to a local hospital in a home in Houston, Texas area. Through the investigation, detectives learned that mid-February 2024, the juvenile female was burned after LaTanya Harris had learned of a sexual assault committed on a juvenile by her fiance, Terrence Washington. Harris burned the juvenile with flammable liquid in a lighter at the Thibodeau residence in Terrebonne. It was later determined that the victim received third and fourth degree burns over 30% of her body. Since the intentional burning in mid-February, Harris and Washington both denied medical treatment to the juvenile. In the weeks leading to April 21st, a wreck, Terrence Washington shot the juvenile on 2 separate days within the residence. Washington and Harris then placed the 2 juveniles in a vehicle where they drove to Texas and crashed while Washington was driving recklessly. The juvenile was found with life-threatening injuries and being treated for gunshots and burns injuries by multiple hospitals in the Houston, Texas area. LaTanya was arrested for 1 count of attempted first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree cruelty to a juvenile, and 1 count of domestic abuse, battery, and a child endangerment. Harris is currently being held in Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's for a $1 million bond. Terrence Washington is being held in Harris County, Texas, without bond on multiple criminal charges that occurred in Texas. Arrest warrants have been obtained in Terrebonne Parish for 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree cruelty to a juvenile, and 1 count of molestation of a juvenile, 1 count of obstruction of justice, 3 counts of indecent behavior with a juvenile, and 5 counts of second-degree rape. Washington is also being held without bond. This case can shock anybody's conscience, but one thing I vow, we're going to work very hard with the district attorney, and we're going to find justice for that victim. She deserves that, and I promise you I won't sleep till we know that young lady gets the justice she deserves. And again, I want to thank my detectives, Baytown Police. They did a phenomenal job on their part, and that's why they're here today. I stand with them as they stand with us to make sure we get that victim the justice she deserves. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Detective Haley Hammis with the Baytown Police Department. I'm going to be reading a statement from the Baytown Police Chief, John Stringer, who could not be here today. Anytime a child suffers abuse at the hands of a family member or household member, it is both tragic and incomprehensible. When the very people whom a child should be able to trust for protection and love abuse them, it is a crime with long-lasting effects. Upon learning of this case, I was extremely impressed with the actions that our patrol officers took, yet grieved and horrified at the description of injuries a minor suffered at the hands of a household member. I am profoundly proud of the extraordinary work our detectives have done to bring these violent and reckless offenders to justice. Their relentless dedication and commitment to protecting our community are truly commendable, especially in the face of a heinous crime. The severe abuse and torture of a 15-year-old girl by members of her own family is a horrific act that has shaken us all. Our officers and detectives' swift and decisive action in this case highlights their resolve to keep Baytown safe for everyone. The level of care, compassion, and professionalism demonstrated at all levels has been extraordinary. We are deeply grateful to our partners at the Terrebonne Sheriff's Office for their critical collaboration in rescuing this juvenile and ensuring her safety. We are committed to assisting them through the prosecution phase of this investigation. Together, we have demonstrated the power of partnership and the importance of justice in the face of unimaginable cruelty. The Baytown Police Department has made it clear that we are committed to providing equitable justice to all people and that crimes of violence will not be tolerated in our city. Assisting in bringing these suspects to justice is just one small step in restoring some control to the victim. We wish both physical and psychological healing for the victim of this horrific crime. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. I'm Joe Waits Jr., District Attorney for Terrebonne Parish. Along with me, Dennis Elford and Mark Petrie, my Chief Prosecutor and my Chief Investigator. First of all, I wanted to say congratulations to both law enforcement agencies who have done an excellent job in this case in bringing the most horrific case, one of the most horrific cases, to an investigation conclusion that I've ever seen. Congratulations, Baytown and the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office. You did an excellent job. The second is to reach out to the family of our victim. Like I said, this is probably one of the most horrific cases I've seen and prosecuted in my 27 and a half years as district attorney. Sheriff Sonia has touched on the issue of justice and getting justice for this family. I feel confident as we stand here that we will get convictions and put these terrible people in jail for a long, long time, hopefully for the rest of their lives. These are bad people for what they've done to a very young girl. But the key word is justice. Will we ever get justice for this person? I don't think that we can. Given the putting him away, but still getting justice for this little girl, what she's been through, the parts of her body that she's lost, the horrific mental and physical scars that she'll endure for the rest of her life. We will see this case to a conclusion, and like the sheriff said, we'll attempt to get justice, and we will put him away. Whether or not it'll be true justice, I'm not sure that we can do that because of the magnitude of this particular case. It's horrific. It's horrific. Just looking at the photos, it will turn your stomach. It will shock you as the magnitude of this case that we're dealing with. So once again, I feel confident that we will get convictions in this case. Arraignment has been set for June the 24th, at which point we will be setting trial dates. There's no trial dates set, but the first appearance will be the arraignment. And so after that, we will try to put this case on a fast track to get it resolved. For the health and well-being of our victim, it's very important that we get it over and done with to bring her some sort of closure. Is there true closure here? I don't know that there can be. I don't know that there can be. But we'll be there to support her every step of the way and do our very best to give her the emotional support that she deserves and that she needs. So once again, I thank Baytown Police Department and Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office for the awesome investigation that they put together. I feel proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with these guys. They're first class in a class act. So thank you all very much.
Okay, we'll open it up for questions at this time. Yes, Mark?
Sheriff, I can't wrap my thoughts and my feelings. I'm trying to figure out the word why. I can see where the man may have panicked and did some things, but I can't wrap myself around how the mother could be involved in this as a sheriff. Have you ever been around this type of case?
This is a conscience shocker. And I said it before, it's like trying to wrap your head around anybody can do anything to anyone like that. But it's a conscience shocker, especially when it's a family member, a mother. So is it a conscience shocker? You know, I served 22 years in the Marine Corps and seen a lot of things, and this has shocked me more than most of the things I've dealt with in my 22 years in the Marine Corps. So.
How is the 15-year-old doing today?
Well, we're making sure she has emotional support. Our detectives, we're there. She needs us, we're there. She needs any one of us, we're going to be there through every step of the way.
And you mentioned that the teenager is now living with a family member?
No, she's
Okay,
not.
okay.
Not yet.
Okay, so she's still in the
That's
hospital
still,
right now?
she's still in Texas.
And just when it comes to the 10-year-old, was that her sibling,
Yes,
a male or female sibling?
there's 2 females.
Okay.
This torture went on for months. Did this 15-year-old, 10-year-old, were they in school? Were they withheld from going to school?
Homeschooled.
How did this go unaware for so long?
They were homeschooled.
Homeschool.
By any chance, Sheriff, I know we talked about this started around Mardi Gras time, but is there an estimate time, was this abuse happening before Mardi Gras time, or is that when it actually heightened?
There was abuse prior, but February timeframe was when the burning occurred.
Sheriff, to do this to a child, is there some sort of mental health component to these 2 people, or are they just pure evil?
Well, you know, to get in the mind of somebody, I would say they're probably pure evil. But, you know, I'm sure they might have some mental issues going on, but regardless of what's going on mentally, I'm 100% confident they know the difference between right and wrong, and we're going to make sure justice is served.
Sheriff, y'all had mentioned that she was shot twice. Can you tell us where she was shot first? Because I'm thinking if she was shot in Terrebonne and they drove all the way to Houston.
It occurred here, that from the investigation, she was shot once in the chest and once in the head,
And on 2 separate days?
2 separate days.
No medical attention.
None.
Did the victim mention, when she was first sexually assaulted, like how long
Well,
that had been happening?
Well, I'm going to say this based off of my investigators. You know, I was able to get a lot of briefs. What I'm going to tell you is about resilience, and another word I'd mention is called presence of mind. She's an incredible young lady to be able to encounter what she went through and be able to tell our detectives what happened. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Sheriff, do you know how long between the period of the first shooting to the second shooting that this young woman was
Within a
suffering?
day or two.
Was Washington biologically related to the victim or the 10-year-old child?
It's a mother.
What about Terrence Washington, father, boyfriend?
Stepdad or step-boyfriend or,
Not biologically related to
No.
either child?
Do we know how long they had been together, and then also if the
that, I don't
10-year-old
know how long they've been a couple.
Do we know if the 10-year-old has been abused by the couple?
Well, we're still investigating a lot on this case, so to answer that question, I can't, but we're still investigating.
In the report, you said that the mother, she just wouldn't talk. What did that say to you, Sheriff, that she wouldn't even answer any of your questions?
Well, you know, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, but I mean, like I said, the confidence, and look, what Baytown was able to find out, what our investigators were able to do, we brought it to here today. So,
Do you know her
believe that
condition in
Washington-
hospital in Texas?
what's that?
What's her condition in the hospital in Texas?
I would say stable.
Do you believe if Washington was never involved in this wreck, that this 15-year-old would be dead?
Well, I'm not gonna speculate, but I can probably, you know, under the circumstance, you know, sometimes maybe that wreck was what brought this to light. Might have been a different outcome.
Can I ask Mr. Waits a question?
Sure can.
Joe, y'all have got 3 cases going on right now, the Ezekiel Harry case, the Esco case, and this case. Since you've been DA, have you ever seen that many horrific cases at one stretch of time in your DA's career?
No, in 27 and a half years, no, Martin, we have not. It's just, it seems like the cases are rising to a whole new level of violence, and that's shocking to the conscience. As the sheriff was saying, it's just, it's hard to understand how a mother can allow something like this to happen to a child. It's just, you know, there's so many families that willing to take in, adopt, to bring in kids, and here we're going to a mother's going to allow this to happen to her child. It brings all kind of questions into the mind, but yeah, it goes to, I guess it goes to the why that you were asking a moment ago. But to be honest with you, I don't have all the investigation is still ongoing, and I will wait for the rest of the reports to generate a further opinion.
How mentally tough is it to prosecute cases like this? Seeing the pictures and everything, I'm sure the emotion runs pretty deep.
Absolutely, it runs deep. And looking at the pictures prior to this conference, it's just, it shocks when I say it shocks the conscience, it shocks the conscience to see the magnitude of these injuries and how this little girl survived. The sheriff used the word resilience and how resilient she was. I think this little girl was fighting for her life. How she was able to maintain her life, I don't know. But from looking at the pictures, but using the sheriff's word resilient, she is very resilient. She's a strong individual, and she's going to need a lot of support from our community.
What type of charges could the two be facing? I would imagine because a death did not occur, the death penalty is off the table.
Right now, the most significant, there's a slew of charges. The most significant is attempted first-degree murder, multiple charges, multiple counts on him and on her. So there are other charges after we get the case. We will screen it and make that prosecutorial decision. But right now, the most serious one is the attempted first-degree murder of a child.
And do we know when Mr. Washington will be extradited back to Louisiana?
I don't know, but we hope it's soon. The first arraignment, like I said, is set for, I think both of them are set for June the 24th. June the 24th, and we're hoping that it's before then, but there's things we have to resolve legally through Baytown, and then we will go from there.
And he's being held without bond in Texas, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
This may be a question for the sheriff, but were there any ties to Baytown? I know this may, be a Baytown question we can't answer. Were they just passing through Baytown's, right, I-10, it stated I-10 East. Were they coming back home? Were they?
Well, they were going eastbound on I-10. So was there any ties to Baytown? Well, what I'm gonna say is police work, there's nothing routine about police work. Officers responding to an accident or careless operation or reckless driver. Sometimes what you get on the other end, you just don't know. So and I said it from the academy for many years, there's nothing routine about what law enforcement officers go through every day. And that's why I can stand here and say I'm the biggest fan of law enforcement. No doubt, because what our guys do, I stand behind them 100%. And I'm truly blessed with a good team and truly blessed to be surrounded by other officers that try to serve causes higher than themselves.
And you all said that their first appearance will be an arraignment, and that'll take place on June 24th?
Yes.
Where will it take place? Do we know?
Division C, Judge Juan Pickett courtroom, Division C.
Sheriff, do you know if these two, they were definitely fleeing the parish, and that's why they were caught in Texas? They were fleeing because of this?
They weren't fleeing, they were going to Texas.
Oh, so they were just passing through?
Yes. And it was from good investigative skills from Baytown that they were able to figure out where the crimes actually occurred, and that's when we were notified and through DCFS, and we were able to take action pretty rapidly.
And it was Washington that shot the 15-year-old both times?
Yes.
And the gun that Washington had a gun in the vehicle. Was that gun the one used to shoot the 15-year-old?
Well, once the investigation is thorough and we can confirm that, then we'll know that answer.
At this time, anyone else potentially going to be facing charges in this case?
Well, the investigation's still ongoing, and if there was anybody else involved and we find out, we're going to make sure that justice is served.
Again, a similar question. It's kind of hard to believe that a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old homeschool would still, especially living kind of on that cusp of Terrebonne, Lafourche parishes, that nobody noticed something. Surely, any other family members.
It was nothing. It caught us by surprise like anybody else.
Have Harris or Washington faced any type of criminal charges in the past? Do they have a history?
I didn't look into their history. I know our detectives have looked into that, but I mean, we're talking about the current, what we're dealing with now.
Do you know if DCFS was ever contacted on them before?
Now, I can't confirm any of that.
Sheriff, I've been knowing you for a long time, and I see the emotion in you on this case. So obviously, when Joe alluded to seeing the pictures and different things, is that the father coming out in you when you see something like this that sort of separates you as a law enforcement
Father,
person?
grandfather, yeah. I have children. I have grandchildren. And I know I'd protect them with my whole life. And for somebody to do that to their child, just can't even put it to words or understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? We thank all of you for being here, and that will conclude the press conference at this point. Thank you very much.